Thursday, September 22nd, 2022, Maneco 64, home of alternative economics and contrarian views. Today, I have the pleasure of speaking with Jim Lewis of Wall Street Silver. I've been on Jim's channel a few times. He's been here a few times. So welcome, Jim.
Thanks for having me. Appreciate it.
So you've got Klaus Schwab behind you now.
Oh yeah. We have all sorts of people we can put in the vault back there.
Yeah.
Here, it just sort of became a thing with the audience. We can put Xi Jinping in there. Sometimes I have Justin Trudeau back there.
Yeah.
We have Jay Powell, the Fed
Yeah.
chairman, or Janet Yellen, or
Yeah.
sometimes if we're talking Russia, I might put Vladimir back in the vault or something.
Yeah, maybe.
Or sometimes, we even talk Trump sometimes. And
Yeah, Vladimir hugging Liz Truss. That would be a good one. But
yeah, or we even have Hunter Biden we can throw back there if we need to. So,
yeah,
he's always fun.
yeah. Talking about Hunter Biden, maybe we could go into that a little bit. Not him personally, but there's been a lot of stories about the corruption in the Biden family, how they've been taken.
Yeah.
And I just saw the other day that the New York Attorney General, forgot her name, but a Democrat, is trying to bring a fraud case against the Trump family for inflating property prices. But I would say, what about the '08 crisis? Aren't they going after the banks for inflating house values and issuing mortgage-backed securities?
Yeah, I think one person got charged out of the entire banking system. There was like one trial for one person, and some mid-level person for falsifying some documents. I mean, it was so ridiculous that they let the top guys go. I mean, some of those banks, Countrywide, for example, what they were doing back in 2008 was just ridiculous in terms of the loans that they were piling on and dumping on pension funds. That just they knew it was going to blow up, and they still just kept doing it, trying to loot the system as much as they could. You know how it is. The bankers, they privatize the gains and they socialize the losses onto the public through bailouts, right?
Yeah, I
So that
mean
always
they were giving guys like Billy mortgages, even for
yeah.
dogs.
They even had a name for it. Remember the ninja loans? No
Yeah,
income, no job, no assets.
yeah, and you can be a Shih
Yeah.
Tzu as well if you want. Yeah, and I saw someone tweeted out today, Putin making a speech. I think it was yesterday, and he said that the West is blaming him for all our economic troubles, and then he said, the elites in the West, they've been setting wrong policies for many years, and uh, I'm not a pro-Putin guy, but I've been warning people about this even before the '08 crisis when I learned about the monetary system. So yeah, it's it's a little bit like your enemy, the enemy of my enemy is my friend, so to speak.
Well, Putin obviously had what he's doing in Ukraine has it's invading any countries, especially in this situation, is wrong. But at the same time, I don't think that the Western powers are entirely innocent in all this. They did sort of back him into a corner in terms of they kept pushing. Remember back in the 1990s, when East Germany and West Germany were reunited?
Yeah.
The deal we made back in the 1990s, Russia could have blocked that deal. They had the ability in the United Nations to block that with their veto, if I recall. And the deal was Russia agreed not to block the reunification of East and West Germany in exchange for NATO agreeing not to expand further eastward, as in Poland, the Baltics, Hungary,
All the Warsaw Pact
all the
countries.
Warsaw Pact countries that were now no longer part of the Soviet bloc, they would not become members of NATO. Well, sure enough, Poland became part of NATO, Estonia became part of NATO, Latvia became part of NATO. It's or are they part of NATO? They're part of the EU. I don't know if they're all part of NATO. I know Poland is part of NATO, but and the next logical step was Ukraine, and so back in 2014, the Western powers financed that takeover of Ukraine. You know, the tossing out of the elected government brought in a more Western-friendly government, and then Russia promptly took back the Crimean Peninsula, and which was, you know, what, 95% Russian anyways, Russian population, Russian speaking population. And it seems like the past 7 or 8 years have just been a buildup to what's happening now this year, where Russia just kept telling you, you keep pushing, because the pathway to invade Russia is right through Ukraine because of geographic reasons. The easiest pathway through there is through Ukraine, so it's strategically extremely important. So
Yeah,
Russia had to do something at this point.
yeah, and Russia geographically as well, that part of the world is very flat. So it's very easy to get to Russia. Of course, is invading it and controlling it is a different story, as Napoleon and Adolf Hitler found out. So, but
Yeah.
I think the Russians are concerned about that. They don't have the Urals are not like huge mountain ranges like the Alps, or they don't have like the English Channel to protect them, or the North Sea and the Atlantic. And yeah, so yeah, there's a lot of things there. And unfortunately, just like with everything that we see these days, especially in the last 3 years, the mainstream media, they push a narrative. If we start talking about how what we're talking about, they'll call you a conspiracy theorist, even though you've done the research. I mean, I've made videos years ago when I just started this channel talking about this deal between James Baker, who was the Secretary of State, and Edward Shevardnadze, who was the Secretary of State of the Soviet Union. And they promised the Soviets or Russians that they would not, because the Russians, they withdrew all their troops from East Germany and the whole of Eastern Europe. They went back home. And the Americans said, well, we won't even go into East Germany. And now they're all over the East or Eastern Europe. One thing, though, that people mention is that there wasn't anything in writing. It was like a deal done with a handshake. And I guess I think the Russians have themselves to blame, I guess, if they didn't get it on paper. But
Well, even if it's on paper, I don't know. You know, it's worth the paper. It's, you know,
yeah,
how worth it. How worth it.
yeah, even if
The
it wasn't
government,
on paper, they probably
they find ways around these things. Remember, it's almost comical. As soon as Afghanistan ends, you know, we pulled out of Afghanistan, the United States, last year. Almost as soon as Afghanistan ends, they got to go find some new war to get involved in, right? It's like the machine, um, the process. There has to be a war going on somewhere so that certain special interests are getting paid, whether it's the military contractors, um, all the consultants in Washington, D.C. There's a whole ecosystem out there that only makes money when there's conflict.
well, and it's the huge money-making machine war. Smedley
Yeah.
Butler, I don't know if you heard of him. He wrote War is a Racket. He was a brigadier general in the Marines and fought in
Mhm.
the Spanish-American War, World War One. And I've got his book, War is a Racket. It's not a very thick book, and he mentions how when you have wars, governments will pay a lot more than they need to for products. So it's a gravy train. And I think this is what it's all about.
Yeah, well, and also, don't you find it interesting how many politicians happen to have children who are on the board of directors of Ukrainian companies these days? It's it's just comical. It's Nancy Pelosi, it's Mitt Romney, it's Hunter Biden was the board of directors for some natural gas company there in the Ukraine. It's just it's like a racket. They all have kids that are they place all the politicians have kids that they put in certain companies, or they have consulting companies to get no bid contracts, or they're running some nephew or niece is running some NGO that gets government funding from either the EU or the USA. It's just ridiculous how many avenues they have to funnel
Yeah.
government tax dollars, but they need conflict to make
Yeah.
these things happen, to have the grift occur, to have the opening to just go spend money willy-nilly.
Yeah,
There's a
I
conflict.
heard President Biden yesterday. I don't know why I listened to his UN speech, but I just wanted to. I was curious, and he was uh, barking out billions here, billions there for everything. And yeah, it's very easy to spend other people's money. And
Yeah, he gets to be Santa Claus at the UN, right? And
but
it's raining dollars.
I wonder, because the way, and I'm not having a go at Americans, but at the deep state and the American leaders, the U.S. has invaded more countries than anyone else in the last 75 years, has created more coups and interfered in more countries than anyone else. And there he was saying, "Oh, we uh, we what Russia's doing very wrong. It's not this in the spirit of the UN." And then it's almost like the bully has come out and saying, "Don't worry, guys, we're not going to be bullies anymore, and we want to help you." And I wonder how many of these countries in the UN, all the leaders in the UN, how many really clapped for him genuinely.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, well, maybe a polite clap. He is clap. He is I hear him speak these days. We're talking about Biden. I hear him speak these days, and you just got to wonder. It's almost like elder abuse watching this guy function on stage.
Yeah,
Um,
I was surprised he delivered a pretty good speech at the UN. I guess he had
the teleprompter had the very large
yeah,
font on it, but I
yeah.
mean, I don't know, but some of the videos we see on this guy these days, you wonder, 2 more years, you wonder if he's really going to be there to run for re-election in 2024.
Yeah.
It seems like he's already struggling here in 2022. Who knows how 2 more years of, that level of pressure and aging will affect him. I had a parent, my stepfather had dementia, and so I've seen the stages of someone as they progress through dementia. And I got to say, of the 7 stages, um, I really think Biden's probably at stage 2 or 3 of dementia. Um,
Yeah,
just I'm not an expert, just my
yeah. I
amateur
mean, my
observation.
father unfortunately had Alzheimer's or dementia, and he was in his 60s. And yeah, he used to. We didn't know at the time that he had it, but he was getting very angry very easily, which wasn't something he usually did. And you can see Biden as well. A lot of times he goes, "Come on, man!" He gets really agitated. So
Yeah.
I wonder if he's already. My dad, once he walked out of the house and in the middle of the night. I wonder when he's going to start doing that, and he's probably doing that in the White House. Who
Well,
knows?
it's very obvious. I've seen some people posting videos of Biden back during the Obama administration of when he was speaking. And it's very striking now when you go see him speaking on certain topics back, 10 years ago, 2009, 2010, 12 years ago. And then you watch him speak today, like this guy's clearly lost a few steps. He's not nearly where he was 12 years ago
Yeah.
mentally.
So,
Um,
so who do you think is really in charge then? Who's pulling the strings? Because I
I
remember
don't, yeah,
Obama,
that's a good
when
question.
when Obama was elected in '08 and then inaugurated in '09. There's a story that it was a guy, a director of Citibank, that was helping him pick all the cabinet. And we've seen pictures recently. I think it was Obama, his wife, in the White House with Biden and his wife. And instead of Biden being right in the center as the president would be, it was Obama in the center. So you
Yeah, I
kind of
saw that.
wonder.
Yeah, it makes you wonder because with I really wonder if he doesn't run for reelection, if somehow they convince Biden not to run again. I don't think Kamala's going to get a free pass, to run unopposed. The governor of California has already said, Gavin Newsom. I mean, he's a way extremist, radical leftist. He's already said if Biden doesn't run again, he's running. So Kamala Harris is not going to get a free pass uh, to be the Democrat
Yeah,
nominee for
and
president.
Kamala Harris during the Democrat, when they, what was it, the process when they picked the candidates.
The nomination process, the
Yeah,
primaries.
yeah, the primaries. She had less than 2% of support. So
Yeah,
I don't see how.
she hasn't really built anything,
No, no,
impressive since then. I
no,
don't know how,
no. And so maybe we could switch off into the markets and
yeah,
economics. Yeah, politics is fun, but I feel a lot of times it's just divide and conquer. But
yeah,
it's interesting to know what's going on, that to know that the people who are supposedly our leaders are not really in charge, and it's the same thing for every other country. It's not just Biden, I would say. So one thing I've noticed, we're going to talk a bit about silver. I'm sure you don't mind.
yeah. I'll
Is
talk
that
about that.
recently gold has made new lows in the last week or so, around 1650, but silver is actually hasn't made a new low, because it was about 3 or 4 weeks ago, silver traded below 18, and now it's like knocking on the door of 20. So I think that's encouraging. And maybe you could touch upon what you're seeing in the silver markets, COMEX, the withdrawals, and premium
Yeah.
as well.
Well, the key thing here is, the spot price of silver has no relation to the current physical market. The premiums on silver, most different types of silver you can't get for less than $25 an ounce these days. American Silver Eagles, closer to $30 an ounce. The premiums there are totally crazy. I think, which one? Okay, you got one right there.
Yeah.
All right. Are we whipping out silver now? Is that the game plan here? All right.
Yeah, I like
Well,
silver eagles. They're beautiful
you can show
coins.
your American Silver Eagle, and I'm going to show you a Wall Street Silver.
Yeah, I've got one of those you sent to a
See, my,
colleague.
my coin has a look here. Can you see it? I got a rocket
Yeah,
on
yeah.
mine.
That
So,
rocket's still on the platform.
yeah.
It hasn't
Um,
taken off yet, but you sent me one of those for Christmas. Thank you.
yeah, I did.
Mm.
We don't, yeah, I think those all sold out. I think they still have some, but they're not making anymore. They're going to change, they're going to do another 1 ounce round, and they're going to change it to, so the ones that are out there, those are unique. There aren't going to be any more made of that design. They're going to change the design to something else for the next one they do.
Is it hard to get them made for you?
I don't make them. A
Oh, I
company
know.
called Silvertown Mint does it.
Because people have asked me about making a silver, a Billy silver coin, and
Yeah.
it's I contacted a few mints, and they never came back. Maybe it was because it's during lockdown and last
Well,
year.
you got to have a certain scale before they'll, so I think they made 50,000 of ours, and that was, I guess, big enough. And a bullion dealer actually did it all, and then they made a big donation, and they made a donation. We give away free silver during contests on Reddit,
I
and so
see.
the profits from that 1 ounce silver round, all of it goes towards to fund the free silver giveaways that we do on Reddit. So
Okay.
I don't make anything off this. These things that are sold, I
Yeah.
don't make anything personally off of it. All the
Yeah.
proceeds and profits from it go to free silver giveaways on Reddit that we do. So
Yeah. Maybe we could organize something. Maybe get Billy involved, and I wouldn't. Like I said, I would also donate it.
yeah, we'll put you on one side, and we'll put Billy on the reverse side, right? It'll be just as popular as a coin with the queen on it, right? So
Yeah. Yeah.
oh, actually, that I heard that led to all all the Britannias and the
Yeah,
Maple Leaf, all the different coins that have the queen on them have been extremely popular since she passed away. You know,
well,
people, it's all been cleaned out of the retail
yeah,
store.
yeah, that's true because it's the last year she's queen. And the other thing, there is a 2 ounce coin, the Royal Mint here minted that had the Queen's head on it, but it was for 2023. I think those are gonna do really well because she died in 2022.
Mhm.
It's almost like I'm not saying it's gonna be like the 1933 double eagle, gold double eagle, but it's interesting.
Mhm. Yeah, but the spot price of silver, we should always remember it bears very little relation to what's going on in the physical market.
Yeah.
Um, I just did a video with Bix Weir, and we were talking about how the US Mint for the American Silver Eagle, they're only producing at 20-25% of their capacity. They've only produced a fraction of the number of silver eagles that they have. They have. I think he showed us the data during that video of what the maximum they've ever produced is, which was like 2015 or 2016, and it was 5 times more coins than they're producing now this year. And it makes you wonder, you know, if the premiums are through the roof right now on American Silver Eagles. Why isn't the U.S. Mint stepping up? And they're required by American law to produce enough to meet demand, and they're clearly not doing that.
Yeah, that's
Um,
right. I heard that.
the other key thing that we all have been watching on Wall Street Silver is the draining of LBMA in London and COMEX, the COMEX vaults. This I don't know if you follow those guys on Twitter, Mike Sayer. He posts a lot of great graphs with this type of data showing, I believe the COMEX registered category back 18 months ago when we first started Wall Street Silver was at 150 million ounces. And right now, as we speak, it's down to 43, 44 million ounces. Um, so the amount of physical silver available for delivery has fallen by more than, 2/3, probably close to 70%. And it's not an arbitrage situation where it's just going back and forth between London and COMEX, LBMA and COMEX vaults. It's actually disappearing because the vault levels in both London and COMEX are declining. And it seems like a lot of it is going east to India and China. The physical prices in Shanghai or in India are measurably higher than they are the spot prices in London and on COMEX. So that arbitrage is drawing a lot of, it's not just silver, it's also gold. We seem to be subsidizing gold here in the West, artificially holding it down, which is leading to a massive drain from the vaults out of the Western, capitals, the Western financial capitals. They're draining all the precious metals over to China right now.
Yeah, it's amazing. Our central bankers, like in the West, they never mention gold, and nor do our politicians. They seem to be intent on just inflating the system. We're hearing that the central banks are tightening. Of course, they're raising rates, but I just saw that yesterday the FOMC announced that they're going to hold off rolling off the mortgage-backed securities or selling them at all. So
Mhm.
it's not. So how do you see the central banks? I mean, the Bank of England raised rates today by 50 basis points, but we've got CPI at 10% and the other measure at 12%, and our rate is only at 2.5%.
Well, every central bank except for the European and American central banks is buying gold. It seems like going back to 2008, I'm sure you've seen that chart where up until 2008, all the central banks were collectively, just getting rid of gold. But then it changed. 2008, you've seen worldwide, most of the other central banks are adding to their gold holdings. It's like they're almost getting ready for something major to happen. They all sort of see the writing on the wall that we're headed for a new financial system, a new Bretton Woods type of, we've got to figure out the new underpinnings for the financial system after this one, implodes, which seems very likely to happen within the next couple of years. Uh, it's, I don't know if they're using this coming crisis as an excuse to bring in the central bank digital currencies, which they all seem to be talking about ad nauseum these days. Um, it's an unusual, it's an amazing time to be alive. It's a terrifying time to be alive because we're gonna have to live through this.
Yeah.
And very, a lot of people are not really prepared, I think, for what's probably going to happen in the next couple of years. Certainly within the next 5 to 10 years. I mean, I've been surprised how long they've been able to kick the can down the road repeatedly uh, in this process, but just keep printing and pretending to put a nice face on it. But it seems like things are just falling apart right now, and a lot of it is energy. You can't hide energy shortages. You can't hide that. And, we can play with some financial games in the accounting systems to make the debt problem appear less than it is, or inflation appears different than it is. But what's bringing a lot of this to the forefront right now is just raw energy shortages, which is not something they can paper over.
No.
You live in London, correct?
Yeah.
How has your electric bill changed in the past couple of years? What did it used to be like?
Well,
What did it used to be 2 years ago?
it
And what
hasn't
is it
really changed
now?
much because we fixed it a couple of years ago, but it's gonna probably adjust in October. So it
You
hasn't
do
been,
annual contracts, right? It
yeah.
changes year with an annual contract.
We did a 2 year deal, so it was 2 years. But my wife is good with that. She puts the central heating on a timer every, in the winter, so it goes on when we go to bed, and then while we sleep it turns off, and then you get up in the morning, it goes on again. So we're pretty good with that, but it is going to rise. But fortunately or unfortunately, the price is going to not be as bad because our government has decided to create 200, probably 200 billion over the next few years, pounds, to basically keep that price capped.
Yeah.
It's
What is it?
going,
It's like 2,500 pounds per year is the maximum for certain
yeah, that's
residents
what
or
they
something like
think.
that.
They're trying to cap that for the average bill was going to be 2,500 at the most. Prior to this announcement, this package, they were talking about that it was going to go up to 6,000, and that's from around 1,300 about a year, 18 months ago. So it's still going up, but the
So
thing is,
so roughly your bill was roughly 1,300 a year. It's going to be
not
capped at 2,500 a
not
year,
not mine, but for the average
the
household.
average home. So the
Yeah.
average home is still going to
Oh
have to
yeah.
pay for about a doubling,
Yeah.
and then the government's going to subsidize over 50% of what the true cost
Yeah.
of energy is.
Yeah, and it's going to squeeze into other costs because the what is it's already doing it. We can see the pound is like melting down. It got down to 112 today, so it's going to continue lower. It might have some dead cat bounces along the way, but I can see it down to almost parity by the end of the year. And when you think about that, it's quite.
Dollar pound parity 1 to 1.
I think so. It's quite.
And you know what
Last.
happens? You know what happens then, right? When dollar and the pound reach parity, you got to start calling football soccer. That's
Oh,
a
okay, I see.
It's soccer now.
Yeah, I don't care much about soccer or football, but the thing is, it was at 140 last year, and
Yeah,
it just shows that the whole country is getting poorer.
yeah.
The people who have some dollar earnings, they'll be okay. It's like when I grew up in Brazil, if you had dollar earnings, you did well. But I think eventually the dollar is gonna go the way of the pound and the euro, but it can only devalue really against gold and silver because the dollar is the major reserve currency. And to devalue, if they try to devalue against the euro and the pound, then the central banks of Europe will try to devalue, and it's a silly race. If they really want to devalue, I would say it's going to be against real things, and eventually it will happen. And it's been frustrating, the paper market, but like you said, buying real physical gold and silver is a different story right now. And I saw a guy on YouTube. I don't know if you know Silver Seeker or Silver Seekers, and he went around in the US and he did a video while he was calling these bullion dealers, and he said, "Oh, I've got 20 monster boxes, is it 10,000 silver eagles for sale?" And the worst price he got was $5 over spot.
Mhm.
And they were offering to buy from him one of them at $9 over spot. So yeah,
Yeah.
like you
Oh,
said,
oh, yeah, they'll buy it over spot and then they'll raise it. You know, I've interviewed those bullion dealers, specifically Tyler Wall at SD Bullion, and he said, yeah, we'll pay over spot, and then we're going to mark it up $3 or $4 more
yeah,
over what he says. I don't care where I buy it from, but we got to
yeah,
make just to cover their cost of staff and
yeah,
warehousing and their profit
yeah.
margins. They got to make $3 or $4 an ounce. So.
Yeah, I think what's happening is like I spoke to a guy maybe in the beginning of the year. He's in Beirut, Lebanon, and up until I think October 2019, their local currency, the Lebanese pound, was fixed to the dollar. And a lot of people there held dollars, but they held it with the bank. It was, people dealt in dollars and their local currencies one to all, not one to one, but the rate didn't change. So all of a sudden, the banks were in trouble, and the local currency collapsed, and all these people went to the bank to try to get their dollars, and they weren't there. So it was like a manipulated market for 20 years, and all of a sudden it broke. And I think the same thing is going to happen worldwide with the dollar. A lot of people, and gold, a lot of people are going to think, I have gold through COMEX or GLD or with a bank allocated or unallocated. And all of a
Mhm.
sudden they won't be able to get any gold, and the price of gold is going to go through the roof, and they're just going to they're going to say, yo, you can't have your gold. We'll give you cash settlement. And I think that's what's going to happen.
Yeah, it's a scary time. I have no idea what's going to happen. I've used to make predictions, but I've been wrong so
Yeah.
often for so long on the price of silver or how things are going to go. I've tried to resist making predictions, just because it's a mug's game, as Jay Martin told me
Yeah.
once. So all we can do is keep buying if to protect yourself, and because I do think there is a crisis coming, and silver and gold are more there for as an insurance policy,
Yeah.
not as an investment, right? I'm
Yeah.
buying silver and gold for the next currency, not this currency.
Yeah. And also for trading, I mean, I did trade gold years ago on COMEX, and you do make paper profits if you go the right way. But I think even that now, it's going to be a time when paper profits won't matter. You'll want to have the real thing, and I think we're very near that. So, Jim, any last words, and maybe you can tell the viewers where they can find you and all your social media
Yeah, well, we're,
platforms.
Reddit, Wall Street Silver. We're on Reddit, of course. We're on YouTube, our own Wall Street Silver YouTube channel, which we've had you on as a guest. And I think we're probably going to have you on again in the next couple of weeks. And our Twitter account is out there, Wall Street Silver on Twitter. We have about, I don't know, 295, almost 300,000 followers on Twitter.
Yeah, and I really like your memes. They're great.
No, yeah, no, I just, we find good stuff on Reddit and we
Yeah.
share it on Twitter.
Mm.
And it's a fun account to be on.
Okay, have a great rest of the week and take care.
Thank you.